Good morning. Good morning. Facebook family, friends, good morning. Um, to all the nurses out there, nursing homes, hospitals, jails, clinics, home health nurses. Good morning to you all. I hope you have a blessed day at work. I hope your patients have a blessed day at work. Trying to wait for a few people to get up here. I know everybody at work. I know I don't work in the morning no more, unfortunately. I wish I did. But sometimes you have to do what you have to do. So this live video is going to be regarding keeping your facility in compliance with state, even if this live feed is going to be about keeping your facility in compliance with state, even when you're not in your state window, in your survey window. So, excuse me. Y'all know how I feel about coffee. Good morning, India. First person watching, so I'm going to give a shout out to my little cousin, India Francis. Beautiful, beautiful model. I love all her pics. Go check out her page. So keeping your facility in compliance with state, even when you are not in your survey window. Okay, we're going to go over some key things today that nurses, CNAs, as well as management staff can do. Because a lot of people feel as though in preparation for state, management in these facilities are the only ones that need to be preparing, or we rely on them to prepare the entire facility, when the majority of your nurses have been working some years in these facilities. And if you've went through a state survey, a federal survey, where your building was scrutinized, and I'm going to say scrutinized because that's how a lot of us feel, when in all actuality, a state survey is really an educational moment. But I'll get into that as well. But if you've ever been in a state survey and you got tagged on certain things, I mean, it's in your best interest to remember those tags from the previous year so they won't happen again. So the first thing we're going to talk about is the job of a unit manager. The job of a unit manager, and some facilities differ, but and like I said, I say my disclaimer before every video. My words that I say aren't gold. It's nothing that I'm saying that I'm 100% with my opinion is what I'm gonna say. Some things are facts, some things may not be facts, because every facility has different protocols. So, like I said, the job of a unit manager, which is a manager over whatever unit you're working on, whether it be long-term care or skilled. Now, some nurses don't know the difference between long-term care or skilled, especially the new nurses getting out of nursing school. Some people, because we rarely have a good orientation in these facilities to where we're able to properly train these new nurses getting out of school. So as a new nurse, what you should know is everybody in your facility has a certain job. Okay. When you're first going on your unit and you're with your preceptor or your orientee, somebody that's orientating you, try your best to ask the right questions. So I'm gonna get into the job of the managers on your unit. So long-term care in a nursing home, basically are your Medicare patients that have been there. They live in this facility. They've been there. They may have in the past did rehab. They may be your rehab patients that couldn't for some reason go home. Family couldn't take care of them. It could be your long-term patients could include like some of the homeless population. A vast number of our long-term care are part of our psych population in these geriatric facilities. On your skill side, on the skill side of a nursing home, normally your skilled people are there for like 5 to 6 weeks. They're receiving therapy. And when they receive the therapy, a certain amount of time, they'll go home. Hey, Robin. Hey, Nathan. Hey, Miss Kathy. I miss you. So that's the difference between long-term care and skill. Now, with your skilled patients, there are certain requirements that are to be met. Now, at most facilities, they require you each shift on these skilled people to document on 7 to 3, document on 3 to 11, document on 11 to 7. When in all actuality, technically, Medicaid, Medicare, and these insurances really require us to document once a day on these skilled people. Now, if you follow a nurse whose documentation is just on point, and what I mean by that is when you're documenting on your skilled residents, there's a certain amount of things that need to be involved. And I'm going to get back to your MDS nurses. There are MDS nurses are some of the most overlooked nurses in these facilities, mainly because they stay in their cave. And what I mean by that is they stay in the office. The primary job of the MDS nurse, as I said before, is to make money for your facility. In order for them to make money for your facility, as nurses and CNAs, we must gather certain information and put it into these charts. And what I mean by that is not the physical charts, but your computer charting. So say I'm a nurse, I got a patient, new admission. First of all, you're going to document on them. I think it's 3 days. While they're in facility, you document them. You document on them the first 3 days, but as long as they're skilled, you still document on them. If I'm saying something wrong, like I said, my word ain't gold. I got a few people up here that's worked in management and knows y'all can correct me if I'm wrong. I don't mind a constructive criticism. So anyway, I got this patient in. This patient is a stroke patient. This patient has left-sided hemiparesis, which means left-sided weakness, which means the stroke probably occurred on the right side. This patient does have dysphagia, which means difficulty swallowing. So we pretty much got the picture in our head. We got a stroke patient. They're skilled. What this MDS nurse is going to require you to document on is stuff like the way I start my documentation off in these nursing homes for my skilled people is, resident receive lying in bed, requires ×1 assist with transfers from bed to wheelchair. Resident ate 100% of breakfast or less than 75% or less than 50%. Resident still receiving thickened liquids due to the dysphagia. Like, it's certain things that you want to bring to the table as a nurse with your documentation, and it has to be specifics in order for these MDS nurses to capture it, and that's what they mean by capturing it. It's certain things from Medicaid and Medicare that they require to be captured because this is how your facility will get paid. Per administration, this is how we get raises in a facility. As long as I worked in nursing facilities, I've gotten raises. But I feel like I've gotten the raises due to my job performance. I've been on jobs sometimes where we've got across the board raises as well. So that may have something to do with it. So, hey, Keita, I need to call you. I'm about to call you in a second. Hey, Chase. So the job of a unit manager is perform 100% skin audits on your unit. That's number one, because I'm going to get to what that prevents, okay? If weekly you are going through your unit, and I used to prefer 11 to 7 shift because mainly that's your downtime shift. I would go in around 11 o'clock. When my 11 to 7 shift gets there, I inform my CNAs as well as my nurse, I'm doing skin audits tonight. So whenever you start your rounds, whoever starts first, let me know. We can go around and look. So what a skin audit on these patients requires is you're looking at that patient from head to toe. Okay. You're looking at their face. You're seeing if they have any new bruises, any skin tears, any open areas. What's more important than anything is checking these diabetic patients. Diabetics have the tendency to have foot problems. So a lot of the mistakes we make in these facilities, even when the nurse is required to make skin assessments weekly on these patients, we fail to pull these socks off these people. Now, like I used to tell my CNAs on the hall, okay, you gave such and such a bath, right? Well, I just did a skin assessment and I pulled off the socks, and it's like when you pull off the socks, a whole bunch of powder kind of sprays in your face. It's not powder, that's skin cells. They got dry feet. So if you did in fact clean them properly and bathe them, why are their feet not greased up? Or, they're diabetic patients. So from head to toe, you're looking for open areas, bruises, any kind of toenail issues. So that's the job of the unit manager. What that enables her to do is catch any new areas that are beginning to develop. Now, the important thing as a unit manager regarding catching new areas that exist is when state comes in your facility, and now, because this patient has poor circulation, when state comes in your building, that new wound that you found has a beginning. You understand what I'm saying? It did not just start from a stage 3 or 4 and you caught it then. Because state's issue is if it started at a 3 or 4, you're neglectful. Your facility is neglectful. It needs to start from a reddened area, a small skin tear, and then you move your way up. Because then you're documenting weekly. What is the drainage on this wound? How does the tissue look? Is it granulated? Is it necrotic? Does it have slough? Changing of treatments. That's where all of that comes into play at. Once you have established a treatment on this patient with this wound, you're documenting the improvement of the treatment or whether or not the treatment is not improving. Okay. And I'm going to say this. If you as a facility have a poor wound practice, it is in your best interest to send that patient out to a wound clinic. What I mean by that, I love wound nurses, but I have worked with some poor wound nurses in the past. If you are a wound nurse, your job, if you have a wound nurse in your facility, your unit managers shouldn't have to do 100% skin audits. You need to give these jobs and this accountability to the people that are getting paid for these specific jobs. What's the purpose of having a wound nurse in a facility if you're requiring your unit manager to make 100% skin audit rounds on these units? There's no reason for that. I just feel like you're paying somebody for nothing, honestly. You have some wound nurses that are excellent at their jobs. Just like I've worked with poor wound nurses, I work with wound nurses, whereas when I come in at 7 to 3, the majority of my wounds, if not all of them, are done because they're coming in at 5 o'clock in the morning, doing the treatments, documenting on the treatments, and they're going home right around 2, 3 o'clock. And that's the kind of wound nurses that you need in your buildings. Okay? So like I said, if you don't have a wound nurse, unit manager does 100% skin audit, catches any pressure areas that are attempting to surface, starts off as a red spot, usually puts proper treatment in place. And sometimes this goes by your facility's protocol, wound documentation. Another job of the unit manager is to know what staff works, what shift, and what days they work, to acknowledge and hold these people accountable for any issues. State is always going to ask for an updated and working list of your I'm sorry. State Actually, you already have it in hand. Okay, another job as the unit manager is to keep your unit clean. For example, your biohazard room is not a storage room. In any of these facilities, whether you're a CNA, a manager, or a nurse on the floor, your manager's job shouldn't solely be to clean this unit. You know, if you're like me and you're at work just as much as you're at home, work kind of becomes your home in a sense. You know, a lot of people feel like you leave the jobs that's going on in these nursing homes or these hospitals for the people whose job it is. You know, I've seen nurses say, I'm not emptying the trash, I'm not doing this, I'm not doing that, but your trash is in the trash. It's crazy. Clean your biohazard rooms. That should not be solely left up to your management staff. Is it, like I said, people, it's a teamwork effort. Like your clean utility room, you know, making sure there's not linens on the floor. And usually in these clean utility rooms, what I find is that they store their oxygen. If they don't have a separate oxygen tank room, some people will store their oxygen tanks in the clean utility room. To me, that is fine, but make sure your oxygen canisters are in holders. And that's a safety issue. A lot of people will not tell you that, but every oxygen tank should not be out of a holder. No oxygen tanks, not every, but no oxygen tanks should be out of holders. They should be left in the holders, and they should be on full. If they're empty, put them in a room with empty ones. Don't mix them. That's one of my biggest pet peeves. You know, you run into the oxygen room, or you run into your clean utility where there is oxygen, and your patient's going down and he need oxygen, and you pull a tank and it's empty. You know, it's kind of like, you know, get that together. You know, we're in a business of saving people's lives, so we should have whatever material. We should have all our material close to us and in working order. A big problem in these facilities is malfunctioning equipment, and I will get into that. As a state surveyor for one incident, we had a complaint to where somebody called state and said we had malfunctioning equipment. Well, usually if you have a what are they called? Some people leave it up to their maintenance men or biomed or something. Anyway, they fix these. They're fixing your Dynamaps for you, your blood pressure cuffs and everything, and they're fixing your equipment that you need on the shift. That needs to be kept up on. Quite often we go up in these biohazard rooms or clean utility rooms, and what do we come in contact with? A blood pressure machine that says out of order, that's been there for 8 months. That means your biomed or your maintenance people are not doing their job. Your head of maintenance is not doing their job. Sometimes that's the job of a central supply person. They call, I'm not sure, I don't know if it's Welch Allen they call or whoever. They call the people that manufactures these things and get them to fix it. But whosever job it is, it must be specific to that person. The medication room, as a unit manager, I mentioned this on another video. As a unit manager, you are supposed to be checking your medication room at least once weekly. This will ensure that all of your expired culturettes, hemocults, the lab tubes that they draw the blood in sometimes, if you have any of that expired, throw it away, reorder it. Keeping your tracking forms in order is the job of a unit manager. I'm going to go back to the medication room and this is what I've came in contact with. Okay. So we have patients that receive supplemental nutrition, which means they're getting fed by a tube. And it comes with just milk, kind of like the Similac that you would give a baby, but it's in a big bottle and it's connected to a tube and it goes into their stomach. I've came in contact with, I've pulled one of these feedings, and the entire feeding was sour. It was within, it wasn't expired, but inside was expired. I mean, inside it was like clotted up, like it was sour milk basically. So what I'll let the nurses know is, it's your job to inspect these feedings before you even hang them. Because sometimes when they get clogged like that, when the milk is thick like that, it won't flow anyway. So when you're attaching your set to these kangaroo pumps or whatever feeding pumps your facility uses, it won't prime because it's already clotted up inside. So it is in your best interest to shake these bottles of milk and actually look at the liquid free flowing. So another job of the unit manager is keeping track of tracking forms. And what I mean by this is tracking forms, infection control, what bacteria on your unit is occurring more often. Is your whole hall, out of 23 people, does 10 people have UTIs on your unit? If so, as a manager, when you come into contact with stuff like this, it is your job to put certain practices in place, such as in-services. In-services are meant to be educational moments. I just want to say this. In-services are not meant to be, I'm trying to use a nice word, griping sessions. An in-service is not a griping session. We have some CNAs, we have some nurses. Once a manager is giving you an in-service, people are rolling their eyes. I find that the people that roll their eyes and are not trying to be compliant with what your upper management is saying to you as far as in-servicing you and educating you about how to wipe somebody or how to clean somebody, because typically when you got that many urinary tract infections on your unit, somebody is not practicing proper pericare. And what that means is, like I said in another video, wiping these ladies from front to back. Whenever you have a man pulling back his foreskin, if he's uncircumcised, and wiping around that area, bacteria develops there. And the older you get, that skin is more loose. You know, we already know, we nurses, we got to find it. You know, so that requires pulling it down, wiping around it. So your manager also part of her job is education of her staff. Most of the time we have receptive staff members that are able to receive that and say, okay, well, I'm going to change my practice. We understand as management that habits are very hard to break. Habits are very hard to break. But when you are taught something, it is your job either to receive it or not. If you're one of these closed-minded people, you're not going to get far like that. Because there's a reason why we're educating you on certain things. So I said, medication room, you're discarding all your expired items, lab tubes, culture tubes, hemocalls, feeding tube bottles. Keeping your tracking forms in order. Tracking forms are, like I said, infection control. How many people on your unit have catheters? How many people on your unit are on anticoagulant therapy, which means how many are receiving Coumadin or heparin injections or Lovenox? How many people on your unit are under the age of 55? Because if we are working in these nursing home facilities, we have to recognize that our geriatric population is not just anymore in these facilities, geriatric population. You know, I've been in nursing homes where we had 30-year-olds to 40-year-olds in there, you know, and as management staff, our job is to recognize what activities we need to put in place to make our facility compliant for the types of residents that are there. You know, every 30-year-old ain't trying to play bingo in a nursing home with these older people, you know. You have to find activities that are right for them. Keeping your charts updated. Okay. A job of a unit manager is to audit your charts, especially after you get an admission chart. Typically, you get an admission, you run through it. If you're like me, I like to look at all my admissions and make sure all my stuff is in order. Like your code status. From beginning to end, you're looking at that chart. Making sure all your medications have diagnosis behind them. Making sure that all your 8 assessments are done. Making sure that any orders that need to be verified are verified. What else? Making sure your inventory list is done. Making sure your height and weight is in the chart. You know, making sure your monthly vitals are in the chart. Weekly vitals when they first come into your facility. Weekly weight when they first come into your facility. All of these things need to be put in place when the resident first gets there. Then whomever is responsible for monitoring your chart or auditing your chart after the manager looks at it, once it gets to that person, it should be okay. Okay. Staying afloat of grievances is a major thing in these nursing home facilities. So when state comes in your facility and it's regarding a complaint survey. For example, if a family member comes in and this is a family member that is involved in the care of their family, and this family member constantly complaining that every time they come to the facility, this person is in a saturated diaper, or they got food particles all over their face, and their hair is not groomed, their nails are long, they scratched themselves, which led to a wound. Keep those type of grievances. And every time you have a grievance, do an intervention and have it on file. So when state comes in, most of these grievances can be found unsubstantiated, which means they will find no fault in that facility if you've tried your best to take care of these and put things in place and it's working. That's the key. It must be working. Managers do medication pass audits with these nurses. Every nurse, I don't care if they was a nurse for 20 years. I've been a nurse for 15 going on 16 years. I'm not going to say my practices are perfect, because sometimes we as nurses, we know we got to do what we have to do. But attempting to stay compliant with everything, that means passing our meds an hour before, and between an hour before and an hour after, because that's what state requires. We know, like I said, insulins have a 28-day period that they must be discarded after 28 days on your cart. Making sure that your medication cart is in compliant with state. Insulin's on one side, eye drops in another slot, patches in another spot. I'm envisioning a med cart. Insulins, eye drops, patches. Down below, your inhalations. At the top, your bubble packs. Now, there's a lot of controversy about bubble packs. We already know how it goes. They send Depakote sprinkles, 125 milligrams. They're going to send you about 50 cards. Okay. It's okay. It's okay for you to send those cards back. If you practice, if you have a practice in your facility where it's okay for you to overstock meds, put them in the bottom of your cart. Try your best not to put your meds in the med room as overstock meds. If you find that this is a buildup, what you need to do is send them back to pharmacy. It's better to be safe than sorry, because what commonly can occur is you have a whole medication room of overstock meds. Some dosages may have changed. Send those things back. I feel like it's a manager's job to take care of that. Every nurse is not going to be diligent enough to do that. Any over 30-day meds in that cart need to be discarded, because I'm going to tell you what state is going to do during a medication pass. They're going to have their little clipboard. They're going to look at your medicines. Jane Smith. Okay, she's receiving Lipitor 20 milligrams, or I'm going to do something that's a daytime med. She's receiving potassium, KCL, 10 milliequivalents by mouth daily, lisinopril. Every med that they're watching you, because they're watching you, give and pop, you have to hand them over that card. I'm going to tell you what state is looking at. They're looking at the name of the patient. They're looking at the dose and the medication name. And they're also looking at your expiration date of that med. They're not going to tell you that. You can pass your med pass, but if your meds are expired, you're still getting a tag. That's what people don't tell you. I've worked on some carts where they got stuff in there from 2008. How? Patient been dead. Wipe off these lactulose bottles and these Prostat bottles and these potassium liquids. It's nothing like getting a cart and you got sticky stuff spilled all at the bottom. Your bottles are ridiculous. It's nothing like that. Make sure your cart is clean as well as in order. Treatment supplies don't belong on your medication carts. Treatment supplies do not belong on your medication carts. This is why they have a treatment cart. We already know how it goes for us shortcut nurses with certain things. We do not like it when we have to jump off of our med cart and go and hurry up and dress a wound. Technically, you're not supposed to even do that. You're not supposed to do it. Does it happen sometimes? Yeah, it happens. Updated treatments. Now, my whole thing is the treatment card is usually in preparation for state one of the last things that we even think about. So, and what I'll say about this is this definitely should be the manager's job. Okay. If you know you're having a wound meeting every week and you see that this wound is improving on this certain patient and it does not require Santyl, which is a natural debridement. It does not require Santyl, but the Santyl for this patient is still in the drawer. Discard it. Discard it. I would recommend any patient with any wounds on your floor, putting all of their things, specifically all of their creams, in a Ziploc bag with their names on it. It's just easier for your nurses. And I'm saying this because I've been a floor nurse for so long, and that is the easiest practice for me. It's nothing like going to a treatment card and you got 50 million bottles of people that you never even heard of that's been gone since before you got there. Clean these treatment cards. Okay. Another thing about getting ready for state. Keep up with these missed appointments. And the reason why these people miss their appointments quite often is because of transportation. We know that if you work in a nursing home, transportation has failed to pick these people up, mainly because it's a state-run job, and we already know how that goes. So if transportation fails to pick these people up, have that documented, and definitely document you rescheduled their appointment. I don't care if they missed their appointment 5 times, document the reason. This will save you a lot of heartache when state comes in. Because if that's the particular chart that they pick up from a patient when they come in and they looking like, okay, this wound hasn't gotten better. This patient is a diabetic patient. And nothing that they're doing in this building is helping. I see that they had a wound appointment for such and such day, but they didn't make it this day. They didn't make it this day. They're going to ask you, well, why didn't this patient make this appointment? Even if you say transportation didn't show, they're going to require you to show them proof. See, one thing about state is they don't believe just what comes out your mouth. They need to see a black and white copy. If we all learn that, these are common sense practices. Like in nursing, every problem must have an intervention, must have a goal. What are you trying, what are you trying to, what's the end result? And normally is increased quality of care for these patients. So keep up with their appointments. I know it sounds simple, but you get tagged for that. I know it sounds simple, but you do get tagged for it. People responsible for making these appointments know the specifics needed for that patient. Know the specifics needed. A lot of times they miss the appointments. Now this is rare because the person scheduling the appointment will schedule a stretcher transfer and the patient actually needed wheelchair. Medicaid has gotten very strict with the requirements needed for transportation, and this is another reason why we have to be specific as the people that are making these appointments. The last topic that I'm going to talk about regarding state and preparing your facility for state survey is meal times. I hate meal times when state is in the building. When I say I hate it, I hate it. I hate it. Because everybody just acts like they don't know what they're doing. So, an easy fix for meal times during state survey, before state comes in your building. Okay. If you have a receptive dietary manager, good morning, Erlene. If you have a receptive dietary manager, you all can work together. I'm telling you this because I've done it before and it does work. If you have a receptive dietary manager, you all can work together and develop a strategy along with your dietary manager or dietary staff as to what residents on your unit will be attending mealtimes in the dining room. Who's going to be on your floor in their rooms eating. Assign a table just for the feeders, because we all know we can't mix feeders when state is there. People that we feed with people that eat for themselves, is a dignity thing. Remember, people, don't stand up and feed these people. Sit down in a chair. Sit down in a chair. Assign a table just for the feeders and schedule a nurse to be in the dining room while these meal times are going on. If you do this every day, the nurse is not. Schedule days that certain nurses have to go in there, or certain managers on the floor. Because we all know managers not doing certain things during meal times but eating. Spend 30 minutes in there and do that just to help your nurses out. Make sure there's always 2 hydration liquids on the tray for meal times, and they are the correct consistency for the patient. It's nothing like your patient being on a nectar thick or thickened liquids and they have a thin liquid on their tray and states there. It's nothing like that. And that's the patient the state surveyor is watching. You know, that's a tag immediately. Like I said, the best practice to me during meal times is, so you make this list with your dietary manager. While you're making this list, you have people in place, like 2-3 people in place, and y'all doing an assembly line, doing 1 table at a time. Once again, people, when state is in your building, you pass out your trays 1 table at a time. Preferably feeders being last, because they really want everybody eating at the same time. But I can't, Erling. I'm already scared to go out there and get a job at these facilities because I know I'm going to be looked at crazy. But I don't care. It ain't me. It's God. Go to these facilities, and when you're in these facilities and you're in a dining room situation, set up an assembly line with trays, making sure people are looking for certain things like, okay, this diet matches. One person looking at making sure the diet match. One person making sure there's 2 liquids on the carts. One person making sure that these trays are getting out to the same table. And they're calling out the names of the residents at that certain table that don't have their tray. Once you get in the practice of this before your state window, and if it's happening every day, we already know everybody hates change when it comes to nursing, for the most part, because change requires work. People hate change because change requires work. But meal times are quite commonly one of the most tedious things that during a state survey you're tagged on. Now, if it's an issue with food, like the food is a certain temp, not a certain temp, or coffee's too hot, that's purely a dietary issue. I'm straight talking about nursing. That's purely a dietary issue. Meal times are the main reason why these facilities get tagged in survey. Set up your dining room so it will be beneficial to the people you're serving. Serve 1 table at a time. Put a nurse in a dining room every day. The main job of that nurse is to supervise. Yes, she can help feed, but the main job of this nurse is to supervise for your choking patient. Hey, Mr. Hayes, Mr. Beacon. Set up these dietaries. Set up with your dietary manager what patients are going to be in your dining room every day, and what patients are going to be on the floor, because that will entail them to say, okay, put all these trays on the cart and make sure these go out to the dining room. It's a simple fix, people, but everybody got to fuss about this particular thing. It's kind of like when state comes in your building, we are running into each other. Why? You don't get nervous because somebody's looking at you. You're not nervous when you've been practicing the same thing each time. You know, you can focus on the right things, but if you're trying to make it up as you go, which commonly happens in these nursing homes, we don't become state ready until state is there. That Friday, we become state ready that Friday. We start doing stuff Friday, and state walking in the building that Tuesday. That's not giving nobody no time. You know? So we went through people that's coming on. Hey, Najee. I need some oils. People that's coming on a little late. This video was primarily on keeping your facility in compliance with state when state hasn't yet came to your building. Like, let's not rush 3 days before state is due to come in your building. You know, unit manager, get on these employees. You know, if you need help, just ask. It's some of us nurses and some of us CNAs that don't mind being put in charge of making sure the biohazard room is clean on our shift, or making sure the clean utility room has no expired meds. Designate your 11 to 7 shift nurse to do certain things, you know. And I know some of my 11 to 7 nurses are going to be like, we don't have enough to do. You do have a lot to do. And that's, you know, I've had the pleasure to work 11 to 7. It's not a shift that you can just sleep on every night. No, it's not like that. Things happen. Because typically, if you know nursing, you know, people die at 3 o'clock in the morning. Most of the time. You know? But stop these wounds before they occur. Designate somebody to do these 100% skin audits on these people. Put treatments in place. Document weekly, especially if you have a wound nurse. If you have a wound nurse, the unit manager shouldn't even have to really worry about wounds. For what? You know, I think that they should be brought in to see how these patients' skin look, you know, just in case your wound nurse is going on vacation. You've actually put your eyes on that wound. But if you have a wound nurse in your facility, primarily she should be in charge of doing those wounds, documenting on it. It should not be your manager's job to do that. If you're a wound nurse that don't like to get up early and come in and do your wound treatments, or you don't have an organization set, it may not be the job for you, because all you're really, in all actuality, all you're really doing is giving your nurses on the floor headaches. Because, you know, it's nothing like, because if you're the type of nurse like myself, I like my day planned for the most part before I get to work. If I'm getting to work and I'm getting my report from my 11 to 7 nurse and I'm going on 7 to 3 and I'm counting my narcotics, now I'm ready to start my day. She's already got my cart stocked up. I'm ready to start my med pass. I'm asking her who had behaviors last night, who's going through something, who's going on, who's skilled, who's going on appointments that day. I'm setting up my day. It's nothing like thinking you have a wound nurse to do your wounds, and she done got ghosts. She done got ghosts. So you asking is such and such in such and such room, or the CNA getting ready to get your patient up that has this wound, and they're like, their wound dressing is saturated now, that I need a change. You know, if you're a good nurse, you're not going to say, well, go get the wound nurse. You're going to say, let me get my equipment and let me go and change that wound before you get that patient up. That messes with your floor nurses' time management, wound nurses. You know, we can be as nice as we can. We can be as nice as we can regarding that subject, but it pisses me off. So I know it frustrates other people. Hey, Shay. It pisses me off, so I know it frustrates other nurses. Do your job. Don't pass that job on to these nurses when 9 times out of 10 we already drowning. Drowning meaning it's 11 o'clock. We getting ready to do our blood sugars. We got an admission coming. We got a patient we sending out, and we still got treatments to do. And we got a wound nurse on staff getting paid to do wounds. Why am I drowning? Why am I about to die? I'm drowning. And I ain't got no help. You know, recognize these types of things, management. Recognize these types of things. Nursing is really not a hard job to do. It's hard because the people that you work around, not your residents, not your patients, the people that you work around makes it harder for you to work. Like I said, nursing is not a hard job. The people you work around make it hard to work. Even when I was a CNA, I'm going to call it out. It wasn't hard for me as a CNA because I've always worked with a team spirit in my heart. Can you help me with this patient? Oh, I got all the ice on the unit. Don't worry about the ice pass. I got that because I'm finished my people a little early. Work with that team effort. Like, you know, as a CNA that's you come and work with, and she always has something negative to say. Work around her. Don't allow that spirit to interject your spirit. Don't allow that spirit to change your energy on that shift. Work around her. Oh, I ain't doing this. I ain't doing that. I ain't doing this. You know what I would ask her? Well, do you need help pulling this patient up or changing this patient? I know she's 500 pounds. Baby, we're going to work through this. We're going to need more than us. Okay, well, I'm grabbing everybody. But I'll help you. Just shut that down. Shut her down. We know the nurses and the CNAs that come into work like that every day. Nurse coming to work, don't... and let me tell you something about these nurses. You nurses, me. Let me tell you something about nurses, us. You know? As a nurse, it's nothing like coming to work and you walking in the door and you already are met with attitude. So like what I'm saying is, if you're the nurse, I feel like I'm the one on my shift that controls the energy of that shift. I don't know if y'all understand what I'm saying. I'm the nurse. If I come there with a frustrated attitude, or I'm pissed off about something and I bring that energy into work, guess what your shift gonna be like? A pissy shift. It's gonna be a pissy shift. And I'm not talking about the patients. Folks gonna be rolling their eyes. People gonna be breathing hard. They ain't gonna want to talk. It's not going to be a pleasant shift. You know? It's not gonna be a pleasant shift. These things are not things that are written in stone for nursing. I just want y'all to know. These are just opinions of a good nurse that wants to make a difference in this field. I'm not going off on no one person. I'm going off on stuff that I feel that needs to be addressed. Like I said, that's like the elephant in the room. Nobody wants to talk about it because everybody is scared. Do I come to work and want to work every day? No, I don't. But I don't show that in my demeanor. Do you understand what I'm saying? I miss working with you too, boo. And, you know, some of these CNAs can tell you, like Erlene could tell you, with the type of nurse that I was, because I know sometimes my energy could be very aggressive and very strong. I'm not going to say in your face, but I'm not going to back down. Point blank, period. Because at the end of the day, it's not even about you. It's not about me. And Erlene, no, I done told her that several times. It's not about us. It's about these residents. You know, it's about your patients. And in order to, when you know better, you do better. And it's not even about you knowing. I know I always say that, but it's not about you knowing. People, we are all adults in the fields that we work in. We are all adults. If you're over the age of 18, you done graduated high school, you're an adult in this field. Why are we going on these jobs acting like high school kids? You acting like high school kids. I mean, it's some jobs you walk in and it's not even about the patient, because it's a glamour show. Who got on the best uniform? Who hard rap looked the best? Who braids is on point? Who, you know, if people got real problems, like really, people got real problems. People got real problems. It's not all about that. You know, who eyelashes look the best? I can go on and on about these jobs where, and I'm gonna call it these love and hip hop jobs, because you know everybody ain't living in reality. Let's be real about it. Everybody's not living in reality. Everybody's not living in reality on these jobs. They feel like things must be given to them. It's not how it goes. This is nursing. It's not about none of that. Right, Erlene. It's always the patients first. So when state comes in these buildings, like I said, I'm not willing to accept stupid tags. I'm one of them nurses that get mad at stupid tags, because if I done passed these meds and got you tag free for meds, and I done did your wounds for you and then got you passed for wounds, and if I've answered this, what does race mean, and what is abuse, what is 3 types of abuse, and what's the other question they ask you? That's every question every year they ask you. What's race? What's what does race stand for? I got a mental block. What's another question they ask y'all? The simple things. If I'm doing the big things like passing the med pass, if I'm the nurse on the card now, okay, I done passed the med pass, got all my meds in and compliant, I'm in the right time frame, and you get tagged for dirty equipment. I'm looking at management real sideways. Like, certain things y'all should catch. You know, we done did the big things. Meal times is a management issue. They quite commonly, they want to always blame it on the nurses and the CNA staff when y'all didn't have anything in place in the first place. Nothing was in place. It's kind of like you set your staff up for failure. You set your staff up for failure. Not having a proper mealtime, when state is in your building, not having a proper mealtime protocol when state is in your building. Race, Erlene. Wait, let me finish this thought. Not having a proper mealtime in your building, mealtime protocol in your building, is management's fault. It is not the job of the nurse to say, I need you off the floor, you off the floor, you off the floor. No, designate all them CNAs beforehand. Your 3 to 11 CNAs should know what CNAs are going into your dining room, what CNAs are staying on the floor. It shouldn't be no freaking frack. Is it all the time? Like, this is the stuff that makes you have a headache in these facilities, because it's people that come in there and they act like high school kids. Some of them act real elementary. Some of them act real ghetto. Leave that where you got it from, you know? Come in these facilities knowing that, okay, I'm here for these patients. I know I don't want to be here, but this is what must be done. Let's keep it moving. Race. What race stand for? Lord, how? Rescue, alarm, contain, and extinguish. Girl, really? You tagged, Erlene. Talk about what's race. I know you know. You trying to test me. But you know what I mean. You know, like I said, these are not, this is not alive to demean nurses or demean CNAs, and not even demean management. It's just to acknowledge the fact that there are problems that exist in these buildings, and everybody is feeling like they're non-existent. Problems exist in nursing homes. Problems exist in hospitals. You know why? Because it's human error. Yeah, we can put protocols and interventions in place all day long, but if one person comes to work and their job is not being done, your protocols fall by the wayside. I'm going to need you to know that. It doesn't matter what rules that are set forth or what protocols and procedures in your facility is put in place. If one person is coming to work and is not doing their job that is recommended to make that whole chain work, it's going to fall by the wayside. You know, another thing that is very controversial in these nursing homes. Okay. How many of y'all remember the hopper rooms? They ain't used no more. They really not used no more. They supposed to be used. How many of y'all remember the hopper rooms? Okay. Hopper rooms were put in these facilities for when you have these patients with, stool on their clothes and this, that, and the other. You rinsing them out. Cause let's be real. In your house, if you have a child and they have a bowel movement, you're not just going to put the whole bowel movement and everything in the washer dryer, right? You're going to rinse that out. Get rid of that. That's what these hopper rooms are for. And I guess this is going to go back to courteousness, because it has nothing to do with keeping your facility in state compliance. But courteous people, nursing staff is not the only people that we must be courteous regarding. Let's be courteous to our housekeeping staff, our laundry staff. These people are coming to work to deal with stuff like this, and they see this. They dealing with these smells just as much as us. You know, try your best to rinse stuff out. You know, don't put, stool pads along with towels mixed in their laundry. Because quite commonly, what they're doing is they're throwing the whole bag in the washer. When they throw the whole bag in the washer, a lot of these bags disintegrate. And that's how they're washing their clothes. So if you got pads in there, they're washing pads too. Come on, man. That's terrible. I just put that out there. But Like I said, we know better, we do better. I'm about to get my day started. Shout out to the nurses that are doing their job. Shout out to the CNAs that run these facilities. Yeah, I said it. Y'all run these facilities for real. And I'm not talking about run on a managed level. I'm talking about run on a everyday level. If it wasn't for our CNAs in our building, you know, our patients' activities of daily living will go by the wayside. Your CNAs are your people that's providing direct patient care for these people. If your family member cannot lift their toothbrush up to brush their teeth, CNAs are doing that. They're combing these people's hair. They're assisting them when they put their clothes on. You know, respect their job. Don't be the type of nurse to look down on them because you feel like their job is the backbreaking work and your job, you know, is more important because you're passing meds. Their job is the most important. They're maintaining your quality of care. Because I guarantee you, I can put a seasoned CNA on one of these med carts and they can pass meds probably better than some of the nurses. But put you in their spot and you can't function. You understand? It's kind of like you working in a bank and your bank manager is looking down at the tellers like their job is not important. Everybody's job is important in these facilities, from housekeeping to managers to CNAs to nurses. Let's make nursing work as a team. Whatever malice you got in your heart, whatever wrongdoing you feel, you know, pray on that. Pray on that, because we know as well as you know, just like good exists in this world, evil exists. And sometimes it spills over on your job. You understand what I'm saying? It really does, you know. But be that kind of nurse that is proactive and not defective. Be the kind of nurse that's proactive and not defective. Your attitude means everything, people. Your character means everything. I'm not sitting here saying that I do everything by the book, because you see, ain't nothing to a failure but a try. And I done failed many times. I'm still failing. But I'm not staying down. I'm going to speak on what I feel like needs to be spoke on. I'm going to say what I say and I'm going to mean what I say. You know? If you the type of nurse that ignore certain things like that the wound nurse issue is a big issue in these facilities. And quite often it has a lot to do with this click stuff. You know, you click tight with the manager, you click tight with the DON. So they don't look at what you're doing, and they might get a million complaints on you, but nothing is going forth because y'all cool. Y'all chill outside the facility. Like, where's your heart at? Where's your heart at? Because I'm going to tell you like this. It's people like me that if I have a family member in a nursing home that I have to go check on, and I'm there every day and I'm watching certain practices and I'm watching certain things, I'm watching how people move, I'm watching everything. You never know what type of family member they are. And you know what? A lot of nurses, we don't let these hospitals or these nursing homes that we go to and visit these people, we don't let them know we're nurses. We're just checking your practices. And you know what? To me, I don't think it's proper to let somebody know that you're a nurse. Let them do their job. You know, don't try and intervene with that. You know, because if you're a nurse like me, you're not intimidated when another nurse comes up to you and it's like, well, why my mother didn't do this? You know, I'm a nurse in this facility, this and the other. Well, honey, what you do in your facility is what you do in your facility. Just because you are a nurse and you just happen to be a family member does not at all intimidate me. Because what you can't teach me is nursing. If it's something that is repetitious, I've been doing for 15 plus years, what is there that you can teach me that I'm not doing right now? I'm not saying I'm beyond learning, but if I'm doing the same thing for these patients, and this particular patient has the same thing going on, I'm not veering or moving from what I'm doing every day just because you came in a facility. It don't work like that. And don't come up to these nurses if you family members in these facilities during their med pass. Technically, And State will back you on this. Technically, when you walk up to a nurse and she is on a med cart and she tells you she'll be right with you and she's in the process of pulling pills, any interruption can have her give one wrong med. One wrong med can kill that patient. One wrong med can kill. Like, that's how serious nursing is. Like, people don't understand the seriousness of the job. Nurses save lives. Don't ask me what doctors do, because I don't know. Nurses and CNAs save lives. You know, nurses and CNAs, and I'm a combine that because we do. It's kind of like I'm trying to see what else I can. I think I pretty much went through everything as well. Oh, one more thing. That was the last thing I had to get into. Before State comes in your facility, I'm gonna just tell you the types of patients State looks at first. Your patients with your wounds, your patients if they're under 55 in your facilities, because what they want to do with those types of patients is they want to see what activities you're engaging them in to keep them. What activities that you're engaging them in your facility. If you notice, and a lot of us have done this, we watch it, because when State is in the building, it's kind of like we watching them watching us. So we got somebody running back to the DON saying they looking at this chart. We got somebody running back saying they looking at this patient. You know, I was the type of manager where if they came to me and said they looking at this type of patient, I already knew why they were looking at the patient, most likely. And one of the main things I said was, go get that patient and engage them in activities. Because a lot of the times they're looking to see how long that patient's sitting in the hallway. Now, this patient been sitting right here in this hallway for 2 hours and nobody's seen her. Nobody's interacting with her. That's a tag, you know? So, like I said, I'm going to end this video now. I want to give a shout out to all the positivity that I'm receiving on this video, on these little segments. Like I said, as a nurse, as a prior CNA, is a lot of things in these facilities that we want to discuss that we are scared to discuss. And I'm going to say scared because we all need our jobs. And a lot of these management staff will have you feeling like if you speak up or speak out on something, you're the problem. Like I said, and if any kind of manager is watching this video, this is how you make your employees feel. If we speak up, if we speak out, it's like we held in contempt. Like, oh my God, I can't believe she said this is what we're doing and it's not a good practice. I mean, come on now. As a nurse on the floor, as a CNA on the floor, and we speak up and we speak out, it's kind of like we feel targeted. Because then, you know, you got people digging into how often you come to work and how many days you miss. I mean, this is when the trail starts. And I'm saying that because I've seen it so many times. If you a person that speaks for change and you want change in your facility, open your mouth. Because at the end of the day, what we need to realize as healthcare workers is it's not your job. My job is not my job. That's how I feel. And that's why I work like I work. My job is not my job. My job is my assignment. And when my assignment is done and God says, Nada, you did all you could do here. It's time to move on. I'm moving on. I'm not listening to no DON mess. I'm not listening to no ADON mess. I'm not listening to no management mess. You cannot make someone stay when it's time for them to go. You know when it's time for you to go. I got you, Shay. I already got you, boo. You know I'm going to speak on everything. You cannot make somebody stay when it's time for them to go. Hey, Raina. Hey, Moni. A lot of management does that, you know, because you're in a position of power. And this is not just in a nursing field. Because you're in a position of power, the employees that speak up for themselves or are advocates for their residents or advocates for the other employees, we are targeted. Well, I'm going to tell you like this. Mainly we're targeted is because the main reason we're targeted is because you're calling out neglect on your management part. And I'm not saying unit managers. I'm really speaking regarding the DONs and the ADONs. You know, you calling out neglect on their part. Because I'm a spoken out nurse, I'm going to speak out about this issue that every time this wound nurse is working, this certain wound is not being done. And she leaves it for me every day. It's a problem. That's a problem. As a DON, as an ADON, it's your job to address that wound nurse. I don't care if y'all go have Mai Tais every day. Address that. Unhappy staff means unhappy facility. Unhappy employees means an unhappy facility. It trickles down, people. Unhappy staff, unhappy facility, unhappy residents, drama. That's what it equals. I'm going to speak out. I'm going to say what I have to say. If I feel like something is being done wrong, I'm going to speak out. I'm going to observe for a minute before I speak out. But trust me, as soon as my opinion is warranted, I'm going to speak out on it. Because things need to be spoken out on. I'm coming to work busting my tail every day, getting all my treatments done, passing all my meds, making sure all my meds are getting out, reordering meds from pharmacy. But Nurse B can come on my days off, and I'm coming back to the same stuff that I left. Come on now. When we speak out on any job, that's your voice. That's kind of like, and I'm not going to bring up politics because this is not the segment for that. And I'm not trying to do that. But it's something as common as this football thing going on. Colin Kaepernick spoken out. Now he's being targeted. Same thing happens on all our jobs. Recognize this, people. You speak out. When you speak out, be ready to have all your ducks in a row. What I mean by that is have all your documentation ready. Because this is my thing. Just like I'm coming to you with an issue and you're a manager, I'm writing that issue down with the date. I'm keeping track. So when you come for me, you got to come correct. Well, here you go. Because on this day this happened, and on this day this happened, and you didn't address this with this, and you didn't address this with this. And you know what? Quite often administrators in these buildings don't even really know the full story. Quite often. But what I will tell you is, in nursing, we're supposed to work up a chain of command. If you cannot get it handled from your ADON, who you go to first, if you cannot get it handled from your DON, who you go through second, go to your administration. Guess what? They even have a job. Everybody got a job. If you can't get it handled with your administration, go to corporate. Now, I'm going to tell you like this, and this has just been my experience. Depending on corporate and their response to your complaint will validate what you need to do on that job, whether you need to move or not. Depending on the response from corporate regarding any issues. And like I said, have all your ducks in a row. Have your stuff documented. Nursing ain't for everybody. CNA ain't for everybody. Just because you have a label as a nurse, it does not mean you're a nurse. Just because you went to school to be a nurse, that does not mean you're a nurse. Just because you went to school to be a CNA, that does not mean you're a CNA. Because you know what matters? What's in your heart. What's in your heart matters. And it is displayed on the job that you work on. So I'm gonna just go ahead and close this video once again. Shout out to the people, like I said, that are doing their job on every job. Shout out to the nurses that take care of people like they take care of their family. That's me. Shout out to the people that work hard to keep their facilities in compliance. Because don't get it twisted. I mean, I'm thinking about management staff now. I'm thinking about CNA staff now. I remember how hard we've worked, 1 o'clock in the morning in these facilities from 8 o'clock in the morning, making sure stuff is in compliance for state. People, we have to love the job we're in, and we have to love the field we're in, especially if we're nurses and CNA staff, to take care of strangers every day. We got to love it. I'm not going to do something just because I'm making money for it. I'll go work at Walmart if I really wanted to deal with some aggravation. The pay might not be the same, but All right, Shay. When we know better, we do better. Love, Nurse.